I love speaking in MCC. I'm telling you, I just love to look at this rainbow of people out here who are so beautiful and really touch my heart. So I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome.
Thank you. My name is Susan Cottrell. I'm the mom of 5 kids. 2 daughters of our 5 kids identify as queer. We were in the evangelical church for 25 years. And when our older daughter came out, I think it was 8 years ago, we suddenly knew the church had no place for us. That was a shock to me. I've always fit in the church. I know that's called privilege when you fit where you go. But this suddenly shifted us to a different place. And when she asked us several times, "Are you sure you won't reject me?" After we already accepted her, that wasn't even a blip that we wouldn't. But she asked me several times, "Are you sure you won't reject me?" We're like, "Yes, we're sure, but why are you asking?" She said, "Because I've seen it happen." Well, that's another definition of privilege, is when you have no idea that that happens. People don't come up front and say, "My child came out and I kicked him out today." They don't say that. They just do that. And so it was a shock to me, to us. And I knew when she said that the conservative church is really upside down on this thing.
Hallelujah.
They are in big trouble, underwater, drowning, and drowning people with them. So we began Freed Hearts. It started with a blog that God tricked me into writing. But I did it. And it just snowballed. People came out of the woodwork to say, I've come out to my parents and now my mom won't stop crying. Or my child came out and I don't know what to do. And one thing after another. And I kept saying, "God, please don't let me lead anybody astray." And I find that really interesting in the conservative church, that we're more afraid of leading people astray by not holding them to some standard than we are afraid of not loving them well, which was the command we were given. And I just kept pressing into it, and every time I would say, "God, don't let me lead anybody astray," somebody else would come out of the woodwork who needed to be loved. And I just loved them. And so our ministry, I like to say our ministry is that we love people. That's a pretty wonderful feeling to do that. Well, so I ended up writing "Mom, I'm Gay" right here. And it goes over, it just tells parents, hey, you didn't cause this. This is not your fault. They're fine. You can just love them. I go over the verses in there. And then I wrote, while I was writing this, I also knew that I wanted to write this, True Colors, Celebrating the Truth and Beauty of the Real You. And this is for LGBTQ people or other marginalized people to heal from wounds from family, community, what they've been told God thinks about them, and their own internalized self-hatred and homophobia and transphobia. So I wrote this because I love you and I want to support you and nurture you. Okay, so thank you. I'll leave cards back on that table in the front so you can reach us. The best way is through freedhearts.org, our website. Well, I wanted to tell you that as I looked out at the church that we were part of, and we left pretty immediately, I noticed that churches that are conservative and that have a message of some kind of exclusion or lines you have to measure up to or whatever, they appear to have Jesus at the root of their churches. They have a cross up on the front. You know, they have the whole 9 yards. They talk like that. But in truth, they just use Jesus as a mascot.
All right.
They're not about Jesus. And so it really got me thinking. My husband likes to say, we're taking our Jesus back. The conservative church is not even using him. So I want to take a few minutes to look at what Jesus actually brings us as a messenger of hope, as an angel of hope for us. We'll look at just a few stories here. The Good Samaritan. Okay, this is the amazing story of a man lying beaten on the side of the road. And the religious people go to the other side of the street so they don't have to bother with him because they've got religious things to attend to. They don't have time. Two of them do this. Then an outlier from a hated race comes by. Let's say he's an undocumented immigrant, transgender, flaming, very hard to box in. So this person comes by and he takes care of this man. Jesus holds him up as the example of what it means to love your neighbor.
All right.
That's an amazing story. Jesus, at his finest, overturns our understanding as surely as he overturned the tables in the temple. This could be the banner story of the LGBTQ community and the families who love them. This message of hope. How about the amazing story of the woman forgiven for adultery? I love that story. Religious leaders try to entrap Jesus by getting this woman, catching this woman in adultery, who they set up. They drag her out to the public square, and then they pick up stones to kill her with. They brought this case to Jesus, ostensibly for his ruling on it. But they already have the answers in their hand. That's how sure they are. Here's how Jesus responded to this woman. She's included. She's included. He shuts her accusers down. He sends them away. And he says, where are your condemners? They're not here. Neither do I condemn you, Jesus says. I like that. I like that in Jesus. It's scandalous. He talks to her privately and he removes her shame. I love that. That is a beautiful message of hope, isn't it? Amen. Can't all of us benefit from having our shame removed?
Yes. All of it.
Yeah. Okay, how about the woman who anoints Jesus? Here we've got a woman, the whole town calls a sinful woman. Jesus doesn't call her that. The town calls her that. And she scandalously comes into this group of men, religious leaders. She scandalously lets her hair down. She sits at Jesus' feet and rubs his feet with her hair. That is scandalous, y'all. That is a problem for conservative religious leaders. I'm just saying. And who is Jesus correct? The religious leader that's hosting, that didn't give him such a welcome, and that is judging her. Well, that's a message of hope, isn't it? And what he's saying to her is she's included. I could tell you many other stories. I usually spend 30 minutes on this talk, plus Q&A, so I've cut it way down. But the point of it is that the heart of God, the gospel, the heart of God, the heart of the life and teachings of Jesus is a message of unconditional, radical, lavish inclusion.
Hallelujah.
What a great and hopeful story. So I would like to invite you to take a deep breath and turn to the person next to you and say, you're included. You're pretty lovey-dovey out there, aren't you? Now I'd like you to turn to the person next to you and say, I'm included. Jesus' entire ministry is a message of hope, of inclusion. All the stories are about inclusion. The Good Samaritan, the point was inclusion. The man beaten by the side of the road, he's included. And you're wrong if you step over him, because he's included. The man who stopped to help, I know you hate what he is. You've prejudged him. but he's included. The story of the woman forgiven for adultery, she's included. The bold woman washing my feet, she's included. The woman who touched my robe, who touched my robe? She's included. Children, these kids, don't you send these kids away. These gay kids, transgender kids, agender, whatever you have, gender non-binary, kids you can't easily classify, kids of color, kids who are different from you, don't you dare keep them from coming, because they're included. So every story you look at, oh, and who did Jesus get angry at? He got angry at only one group of people in the Bible. You know who that is, don't you? It's the conservative religious leaders who exclude others and use God's name to do it. That makes me angry too. Yeah. So, and he didn't mince words. The only harsh words are for them. Calling them brood of vipers. Wow, that's not very nice, Jesus. But it's true, because they were hurting people. And the only thing that made him angry was people hurting other people in God's name, especially the little guy and gal.
All right.
So every story you see is about inclusion, and that's Jesus' main message of hope. And as you leave here today, I want you to be able to say, this is my Jesus. Don't you dare use him against me. Don't you dare use God against me. You are magnificent. You are beautiful. You are worthy. You belong here. You have a place here in this world. I know in this church, but in this world.
Yes.
You are beloved. You're a child of God. And you're included. As we begin to celebrate Advent, the birth of Jesus, let us know that he brings a message of hope to all of us in this hurting world. And we get to bring that message out to others as well. Because Jesus is the greatest story of inclusion ever told.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.